Greetings, family. This is Kyle Dixon, co-founder of Precise Minds Filmworks, educator for 20 plus years, cultural enthusiast.
And I'm Kayode Bentley, president and founder of 4T's Teaching Teens to Think, whose mission is to help inner city youth identify their inherent skill sets in order to complete their education, establish a career, and ultimately start a business, if they choose to. Professor at Fordham University, where I teach students who are pursuing their master's degree in social justice.
And with that said, welcome to the Grand Rising Collective, a podcast whose purpose is to cultivate greatness and excellence within ourselves and our communities. The name itself is from the morning greeting of Grand Rising, which we interpret as starting off the day with a greatness mindset so that we are able to rise to the occasion of whatever obstacles and challenges we may face.
And that's why we focus on engagement, relevant information, and empowerment for people in our communities who want to be and do better in their daily lives.
Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. Now, this is a little different, family. We kind of switching up a little bit because it's February, it's close to Valentine's Day, and this is something that has been on a lot of people's minds and hearts as we connect to the Valentine's Day theme. But it's really not just about Valentine's, but it's about this whole thing about love and relationships. And people are always talking about relationships, how I need it, and how everything revolves around relationships. Which we wanted to do a film review today, talking about the Malcolm and Marie film. Ain't that right, Kyle? That's what we right? That's what we doing.
That's right.
Right. That's what we doing, y'all. So we wanted to do a quick film review. Now, again, before you start watching this, if you haven't seen it yet, we are putting in some spoilers. We are throwing in some spoilers. So if you haven't watched it yet, I'll say you pause it right now. Pause it. Don't turn us off. Just pause it. Go watch it and then come back to what we're talking about and see if you can kind of connect with what we're talking about as far as our evaluation, our analysis of the film from our personal experiences and just things we've studied and learned about us being in relationships and then studying on relationships. All right. So Kyle, I don't know if you want to kick it off with the beginning, man.
No problem, brother. And I gotta keep in mind, I want to be. There's a lot. First of all, family.
Yeah, I mean, this film is, by the way, it's a very interesting film. Some people may say toxic.
It's a lot, family. It's a lot. So it's going to be a challenge for me to try and just highlight the high points. And as Kyle mentioned, we're going to share some of our personal experiences from this. So with Kyle kicking it off, let's say, I don't know where to start. All right, so we're going to go here.
Well, let's start with this. Well, let's say it was directed by Sam Levinson.
Okay.
He's the director of this series called Euphoria, I think on HBO, I want to say, family. But he wrote the script. Caucasian wrote the script. And it's based off, from what I heard, is based off of some situations he had in a relationship. Some situations he somewhat went through, like an exaggeration of what he went through with a woman, or maybe multiple, but I think it's one, I believe. His father's Barry Levinson. His father directed Rain Man, I want to say, and produced a number of films in Hollywood. So he comes out of that lineage of movie makers.
That's what we should have started with. We should have started with the producers, the directors, the details.
Right. We could. But that's for the cinephiles, family. If you were really in the film, like I am, and like some of you are, you'll go back and do the research. But we went into the content because that's what a lot of folks are like saying, oh, I can't believe this film. What kind of garbage is this? Or one time and that's it. Or, man, this film was really great. They really brought out a lot of true things about relationships or relationships that I've been in, not me per se, but I'm speaking for what other people have said,
All right, that's good. And I don't want to tell, who knows? We might be the next Siskel and Ebert. For all of you so old, I know what I'm talking about.
Right. No. Much respect to Siskel and Ebert, man. Again, I gotta give those. No, they got props. They held it down for so long. Even though they bombed on Juice, they gave Juice a thumbs down, man. But I hold that against them. You know what I'm saying? Thing 2 thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? So I give them that one. So they had their days. I was like, I feel you.
All right, no problem. All right, so it's funny that you brought up, some people say this movie is, crap or, and some just the opposite.
Yeah.
My take on it pretty much as I go through some of the highlights and
Yeah.
try and really, pinpoint key things
Mhm.
is interesting. If any of you have been in a relationship, to a large extent, all of us have experienced some trauma in our lives. When you see this movie, this is going to really highlight the effect of those traumas.
Mm.
And like Kyle said, we're going to bring out some spoilers. So pause it, watch it, and come
I
back.
was gonna watch it.
It's only an hour and 40-something minutes.
Yeah.
To me, Kyle, it highlighted the trauma that affects couples, particularly with her, right? With Marie.
Marie, yeah.
The background that they share is that she came from a very troubled past, and Malcolm is the one that helped her get through it, so to speak. So one of the key things that we use the term, and I want to share this with you, get your take on it, is triggers, right? Yeah. Triggers. Yeah. So you'll notice in the beginning scenes, not the very first beginning, but a few minutes in, something that we would probably consider so minor was so major. So that's why in relationships they say whatever may be minor, whatever may be major to your partner, but minor to you, you better flip that, because if it's major to her, it better be major to you. And if it's major to him, it better be major to her. So something that was so minute that Malcolm didn't even factor in was the word "thank you."
Right.
And she kept it to herself. She didn't say anything. But finally, when you get in the movie, you start moving the impact, and you start to see the intensity start to build. It was over the word "thank you," and I didn't because "thank you" wasn't used. It spearheaded and sparked a whole big discussion. What's your take on that, Kyle? What's your experience with that?
Yeah. That word is very simple, but has such a profound effect on people and couples and what we're talking about now, especially in this film. And to start off, they're coming from the event. They're coming from the event dealing with his film that got premiered, and he's giving all these accolades and things. And from the accolades, he's like on cloud nine. He's like, yo, he comes in, he's playing the music, he's doing his thing around the crib, around the house and dancing, and he's just in his zone. And you can tell that the vibe that he's on and the vibe that Maria's on is totally different. She comes in, she has a nice evening gown on, and she just you can tell, you just see it all in her face, right? And he's just absolved. He's just in his mode. And then, finally, when he comes around, he sees it. He's, talking back and forth with it, and he sees it, and he's like, okay, something is wrong, because she's not responding. She's not excited. She's not present all the way. And, he's trying to coax her into hey, what is wrong? Marie, what's going on? What's wrong? Oh, nothing. And while he's asking her, she's making what comes out to be mac and cheese. She's getting the noodles ready and everything. She's at the sink. He's like, yo, what's wrong? Please tell me. She's like, look, I'm not in the mood to talk. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not there. And he's just like, yo, come on. Don't do this. This is a great night. Hey, and he goes into this kind of diatribe in reference of being Black in the industry, which I appreciate. It's about being Black in the industry. And he's like, wow, I'm a Black man, I'm doing film. Can it just be about the film? Can it just be about the work? Can they just not recognize me for who I am? What's going on? Why does it always have to be a Black film? I know I'm Black. I can do a Black film, but why does it always have to be a Black film? What is up with that? What's going on? So he's going to this whole diatribe, which I really love. I think John David put that in the script. I think something that he added in. Again, I don't know, family, I'm not for sure, but I think he added that in there because a lot of things he was speaking was pretty spot on, even if it was maybe his personal experiences in Hollywood or pulling from different people. Because he's talking about, he mentioned Spike Lee, he mentioned Barry Jenkins. He's gay and he's Black, but so what? It's so I got to be gay to get on, and I'm not Spike, I'm Malcolm, blah, he was just going, he was just just venting, respectfully though. And Maria's just listening, okay, Negro, whatever. You know what I'm saying? here's your mac and cheese. You know, I'm not trying to argue with you. Like, sit down somewhere. I'm gonna go and do my thing over here. You know what I'm saying? Because apparently you're not feeling this over here. You're not even understanding. Like,
you're not getting the signals.
Yeah, you're not getting none of the signals. Nor do you probably care that you're getting the signals. Like, so right from the jump, family, it's just like tension. But I do like the fact that the way it was shot. You know, like this type of style it was shot in. You know, like
the black and white.
You know, all the way through. Even family, you all won't pick up on this. Some of you all will, but the way that they brought in the credits was akin to what they used to do in the 1970s. They would put all the credits first. If you look at like some of those films,
I didn't even pick that up.
They would put all the credentials of the people who worked on the film first with the title, and then the movie would play.
That's deep. I didn't even pick that up, bro.
Yeah.
All right, cool. The other thing that you're going to notice, family, in the movie that I think, again, the vantage point is being with someone who's had trauma, right? So there was an exchange of energies in between the two partners, so much so that it was very intense. And so much so that as African-American men in this country in particular, that if you had a hard day at work, or if you've been dealing with, or if you have trauma on your own, or you're dealing with outside something, and you come home, right? So you're dealing with the world, right? You're dealing with getting beat up as a man. I'm speaking from the man's perspective or vantage point. I'm not a woman, but I can also understand where the woman is coming from as well. But you're coming from that environment, then you're coming home, and you're coming into this kind of combative environment. You'll see that in this movie where it was a tit for tat, you know, which and Kyle, a lot in relationships are like breaking points in relationships where it says, hey, I opened up to you. I confided to you as we got to know each other, my deepest, darkest insecurities and secrets. And this is how you're going to do. You're going to throw it back up in my face. You're going to use that to win an argument, you know, and for certain brothers and some brothers and for sisters as well, when that's done, the dynamic it changes. And there's some brothers if they can't handle their emotions, that's where domestic violence and domestic abuse comes in, where the man starts to hit the woman. Or we're starting to notice now that there are women who are hitting men.
Right.
And the men that are being now violated. And so I'm saying all that to say, in this movie, you're going to see some of that toxicity as well, where's that exchange of energies. And I want to also interject in this session that we're doing, some solutions to experiences like this for those who may be experiencing this now in their relationship or may experience, because you gave me some good pointers yesterday, in regards to looking at those key signs and seeking counsel, seeking therapy, seeking help. You know what I mean? Because this movie, for some of you, may be triggering because it triggered me.
Yeah, definitely, man. And like you said, domestic abuse, you know, there was, which we'll talk about in a few, there was no physical necessarily abuse, but there was definitely a lot of verbal abuse, which is also part of domestic abuse. And that's like you said, they're going tit for tat, you know, and in general, there's some points where I was kind of on Malcolm's side a little bit, just like, okay, I see where you're coming from, brother, but you're going in too much on your woman, on your lady, like you're demeaning her. And then there were certain times where she's like, oh, well, if you're gonna go there, then I'm gonna go extra hard in on you. It's just like you said, this transference of negative energy, man, coming off of both of them from unresolved issues, from unresolved issues that were maybe not all their fault, but they chose to, I like to call it, they were vomiting on each other. Like they were vomiting up their trauma on each other. Yeah, family, it was that toxic. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were vomiting their trauma on each other. And to be honest, the whole entire time I was watching the film, it was a little bit tense in moments. So I'm like, is somebody gonna, you know, is violence gonna ensue? Like is physical violence gonna ensue? Which I was glad to see that they didn't at least go that far. I think that would have been, I think in this case, it would have been gratuitous and over the top. Even though these things do happen in real life. But during the pandemic and during this time, I think people are very sensitive, even though they're not really saying it, you know, and I'm including myself in that too. There's certain things I'm just not watching during the pandemic. I don't need to. One thing, if any of you are familiar with Les Brown, he was saying, you know, you have to be sensitive of what you see and what you hear. you have control, you have somewhat control over that. So, you know, you don't have to watch a film just because everybody's watching. I chose to watch it because I'm like, I think I can handle this, you know? I mean, thankfully, I've never been in a relationship like this. I've had situations here and there where things like this came up, but not a full-fledged relationship, thankfully. But again, there have been some toxic moments, you know, that I've experienced that even I've unfortunately been a part of. Never physical abuse, but you know, definitely some things that I said that I would probably take back, but never to demean anyone. But you know, you get in the heat of the moment, you say things, you know, and I'm not proud of that at all. But I recognize that, and I'm like, okay, I need to check that and check that for real. So yeah, but like, yeah, man, it just started off just on a vibe, like, and on a negative vibe, just you know, like the whole.
To that point, you brought up another thing that I'm going to tie in. If you finish that point,
I have, yeah.
Cal brought up the experiences, right? For me personally, I've been in what you're seeing in Malcolm and Marie is what I've been through personally for 10 years in my life. And it's something that I'm considering, like Cal, the advice to give me in regards to counsel, and trying to figure out why did I tolerate that type of verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse for such a long period of time. And that's a very valid question. And that's a very valid point to keep aware of if you are an individual that subjects yourself to that type of disrespect. Whether the person realizes they're doing it or not, you owe it to yourself to take care of yourself. That's why one of the key things Kyle mentioned as well is self-health. So with that, I want to bring up part of the confusion in the movie is after they do their first half of the verbal abuse or what have you.
Right, Malcolm and Marie, yeah. They verbal fighting dance, if you want to call it.
They're very right. There's a moment, there are moments of peace. And one of the peace is a question that she asks, right? Where remember Kyle in the scene in the movie where they're connecting now. Everything seems to be smooth. And he's like, all right, I'm going to the bathroom and come back.
When they're on the floor. You're talking about when they're on the floor. Right, when they're on the floor and they're kissing, right? That's a real affectionate moment, right?
Real affectionate moment.
And think about this too, Kayode. That I want to say that was the first time in the movie I felt that they were actually in it together. Like they were actually affectionate together.
Yeah, like the point you said, there was always something between them before.
Always something between, right, family. Like it's always something, like if you look at the way it's shot and the way they move throughout the film, because movement tells a story too. It's always something between them. It's like there's always a physical item in between them, like a table. You know, when he's eating the mac and cheese, that's between them, even though he's speaking and cursing her out while he's eating the mac and cheese that she made for him, you know. And then on top of that, like he's inside, she's outside, he's outside, she's inside. You know, they're both outside and they're on different parts of the house. He's talking to her from in between the table. He's talking to her while he's taking a drink, you know, getting a drink from the bar, from behind the bar, you know. And even if there's no physical item in between them, there's that invisible entity of tension. You know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with that said, when they finally reach that moment of connectedness and there's nothing in between them, not even tension, he goes to the bathroom. He says, "Hold that thought. I'll be right back."
Right.
As soon as he goes back out of the bathroom.
Right. You see her face, right? Her face how it slowly went from like,
from joy to the tension coming back. She asked this question, and it's similar to a question that we men get all the time. It says, when a woman says we have to talk. But her question was, can I ask you a question? And at that very point, Malcolm, David John Washington, Michael Washington says, "Oh man," you can see it in his face. He's
he's
like,
"Oh
my God, what
watch
happened?"
For the hook.
Right? The uppercut. Right? So the question was, and this is the point I'm trying to get to, she asked, "Why didn't you cast me?" Because there was it was based off of her life.
Right. So she thought, right?
So she thought. And you'll notice in the movie that it's revealed what the real thing is. But when asking that question, you know, and here comes the next wave of verbal jousting comes in. And he's like, so that's what this was all about from the very beginning. You were jealous. My point that I want to ask in relation to this, and in relation to the movie and how it relates to me personally, is why can't women, like in the very beginning, she was like, nothing's wrong, when there obviously was something wrong. And then towards the middle of it, it was these key questions that I picked up on in the movie. Why didn't you cast me? Right? So these were obvious concerns that she had that she didn't bring up.
Right.
That could have been brought up without having to go through all that other stuff. It could have been. So how come, a question I want to pose to the women who watch this, I'm not saying men are innocent too, and Kyle, please chime in. How come women don't, ask those questions, man? If that's really bothering you, why is it such a big deal? I get it. You don't want to get into any argument and stuff like that, but you just add to the tension in the room, because guys are very simple. We're not complicated. But those
not in that case. Yeah, we can sometimes we can be a little complicated, but in that case we're pretty straightforward when it comes to that. Like what is wrong? We like to problem solve. We're problem solvers, so we want to be able to problem solve your problem if you're having one, or issue if you're having one. And sometimes we don't go about it the best way, but that's the intention, is to solve the issue, especially if it's harming you, hurting you, or making you feel some discomfort. So if you're in a committed relationship. Now, again, some guys are like, man, I don't care what you say. Like, I don't care. So that's the relationship you need to get out of fast, quickly. But yeah, it was interesting, that scene, because with them on the floor kissing each other, they seem to kind of be coming back to why they love each other. Remember, he said when they were out there smoking a cigarette, and they shared the cigarette. Sharing a cigarette. She was connecting. Remember, Malcolm, I'll say John David. John David's character.
I know.
Malcolm was smoking outside in a chair. She came out, sat next to him, and then it's kind of getting back to that bonding time. She takes a cigarette from him, smokes. He looks at her, and then he gets up and walks into the house.
Right. Yep.
And she's like, "Well, damn, okay." So then she comes back in, and then that's when he gets that film review, and he's riffing about the film, like, where's my phone? And he's going off like, I can't believe this woman, she's giving me these bogus reviews, and doesn't she know, like, I put my blood, sweat, and tears in this thing? And she's like, yeah, babe, I know, babe. She's just like, she's trying to connect. She's like, I feel you. I'm there with you. I'm there with you emotionally. And it seemed like in that moment, it seemed like John Davis' character Malcolm, it seemed like he never, I can't say tried, but it seemed like he never really connected with her emotionally. It was kind of like her leaning into him, and then they started getting on the floor kissing, and he even acknowledges her. He's like, yeah, even though she's giving you some kind of bogus reviews, she's right. She's like my sister in arms. She got a lot of interesting perspective to say on films in general. And that's how she comes. And, I identify with that, and she was like, she called out something, one of his film or another film. He was like, damn, you're right, babe. You're right. He like, damn, you right. On that, what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, they connect them back. Everything's cool. So then they start getting lovey-dovey, on the rug, you know what I'm saying? So then, like you say, he goes use the bathroom, and she comes back and she hits him with the, what is it? Or I need something to.
Why didn't you cast me?
Yeah, why didn't you cast me? And he's like, oh, this is what it was all about? Selfish? Yo, you selfish. Like, I was like, damn. I was like, she seemed like she was really opening up to him. It was like, like, I'm being sincere. She's like, no, this is bigger than pain. Like, you're not hearing me. You know what I'm saying? Like, why didn't you cast me? I feel like I could do the role better. We're supposed to do this together. I thought that she was way more vulnerable than Malcolm's character. Marie was way more vulnerable than Malcolm. And Malcolm just seemed to be like, even though he thought he was helping, it's like he seemed a little bit combative, like self-absorbed. And that's what she called him on it. Like, you self-absorbed. You think I'm like in my bag, you in your bag, like I thought we had this idea of doing this together and doing it. And he was like, well, I didn't have full production and that's what it was. It was just like you said, every time it was like a peace moment or a moment where they looked like they could maybe go into resolving it, it just blew back up again.
But to counter that, right?
He
said that he cast her. She went in for.
That's right. My bad. Yes, you did. You're right. Sure did.
Right. And she was half-hearted into it. She wasn't sure. That whole thing. So, I'm trying to do a production here. I need the best character for this role to bring this across the screen, and you're coming in half-hearted, like, right? So how you gonna come at me now when it's over and bring that up? That's one.
Yep.
The other thing I want to bring up is that for women, I'm really curious, and Kyle, you can give some insight on this as well from your experience and vantage point like mine. Women don't realize, again, this is just my opinion, that the more you fight with us, the more you complain, the more you, because it goes to the thank you, by the way, because it's a catch-22, right? The more women complain, and it takes a lot for us to reconnect. We're not, women can turn it on and turn it off like that, from my understanding. Men can't do that. So for a woman, you could be mad at me one day and happy the next, and everything's fine. For man, if you come at me a certain way, I'm gonna hold on to that for a while, right? So I'm saying this to the point that you mentioned, where she tried to connect with him outside with the cigarette, what have you. He got up and walked off. Because he's like, damn, I'm tired, man. You know what I'm saying? I try and connect. You come up with art. I try and connect. Here you come. Why didn't you cast me? I try and connect, and damn. You know what I mean? Fuck it. I'm tired. So I wanted to just bring up that point, in regards to us men, to give some women some insight. When you keep coming at us women all the time with this combative stuff, there's only so much we can get, to an extent that we won't want to try and reconnect with you at a certain point because you're just tired. So what are your thoughts on that, Kyle, from the move? Because I want to get to that other scene. The scene I'm talking about.
I think I know, but like, again, family, this is all in one night. So this is all in one night. Right. So we're getting just a snapshot. We only know a little bit of backstory, which I think you're about to link into that, is what you're talking about, right? The backstory part.
The acting that she did.
Right. Yeah. Well, anyway, like, family, like, before, this is late on in the movie, but going back, like, John David kind of reads her the riot act, in a sense, about like him being with her for such a long time. She went through drug abuse and being out in the streets, and he was kind of reading her the riot act, like, look, you trying to pull this, like, like you don't care, or like you trying to come at me. Well, let me come at you, and let me give you the straight hard facts. And he was giving her like details on like who he slept with and what the movie was really about, and how he had a one-night stand, and how I sat with you, went to the AA meetings. People was looking at me sideways, but I went with you anyway because I love you. I actually care about you. Then he threatened her. He's like, I could actually snap you in half, which was wild. He threw that in, and then he went back, but I love you. I really actually care about your, your ass. And then he was like, deal with that. Like, oh, you acting all wild out here. Like, look, I'm the only one that's gonna be with you, and then anybody else gonna deal with this nonsense. And, she's in the tub, but then he kind of breaks down, but he's like, well, but that's why I love you. It's only about me and you against the world. I was like, yo, man, this cat is on one. But see, what's wild, family, is like these things have happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of us have been in those situations, and some people have just witnessed it outside looking in, and people think this is what love about. Like, one of my homegirls like, yo, is this another struggle love film? You know what I'm saying? We're starting to praise these versions of what it means to love yourself and love someone else's relationship. And it's like, this ain't it. Yeah, toxicity. This ain't normalized toxicity. This ain't it, fam. This is not it at all. Like, yeah, he seemed like he really did care about her, but to express it in that way, and then for her to come right back after because I thought she was gonna drown herself in that tub when she. Yeah,
no, I was gonna say that.
I was like, oh I was like, please don't do that. But that shows you like how strong her character is too, though. I thought about that. How that was in my consciousness to say, oh, she might drown herself, because we've seen movies where women have done that. They cracked the pressure. But strong-willed she is at the same time. To her to take that and be like, and she cried, but she was like, okay. So, okay, you want to throw that out? Okay, I'm gonna come right back. That
was a very powerful
determination and resilience.
Yeah, that was a very powerful scene. I thought she was gonna drown herself too.
Yeah.
But to that same point, Cal, the argument can be made, or has been made, that people love differently. So we know, again, we talked about this the other day.
Yeah, differently, not toxicity though.
Like, how do you differentiate that though? See, some person's toxicity may be another person's normal.
Right. True. But again, just because you normalize it doesn't make it normal. You know, just because you normalize destructive behavior doesn't make it okay, whether you can deal with it or not. That's the fact that you can deal with it. I mean, that's an issue. That's a problem. And it's only in an environment that supports that type of behavior. They were by themselves, so they only had themselves to like yell at and scream at, and they were in that spot that wasn't even theirs. It wasn't even a spot. Family, it was a spot for the production. The production team put Malcolm's character and Marie in that spot to finish up the film that he was working on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like, you know, like, right, how can you tell the difference? Because it's like you feel like shit. If you feel like crap most of the time, that's a good relationship. Like if you even if somebody says they love you, when people say they love hard, you know, I could take that with a heavy grain of salt, because you loving hard, but what if you love somebody hard that doesn't want to love you back?
Right. And the reason why I brought that up is because
or doesn't love themselves. That's
true too. And the reason why I brought that up is because in the interview with Zendaya and John David, Zendaya said this specifically. She said, in regards to that scene, that she's nothing like that character, right? And she prays, and well, I don't know if she used the word pray, but she doesn't ever want to be in a relationship like that. But at the same time, she said how people love is their business, and for some people, that's how they love. That's what she said. Yeah. So, and we know what normal is. And I don't want to veer this off of the movie in and of itself, but I'm trying to give some context. Whereas, what if a person in that relationship never experienced normal in the first place? Growing up, this is all they've been exposed to, right? So then that's what I mean in regards to the differential. I mean, you have to be able to distinguish between good and bad, right? You have to be able to actually experience and witness what good looks like, or what a healthy relationship looks like, so you can compare it to a bad relationship. Right. So that's what I mean in regards to toxicity. That might be the only relationship this person has ever been exposed to, both male and female. Right. So who's to say the definition of what the definition of toxicity is? Now I get it. If it's getting to a point where we want to knock your your partner right in the face, and punch him and kill him and strangle him, yeah, that's a problem. Right. But I mean, but truly, can you call this a love story? I mean, like, not saying it's supposed to be, but can you really call this a love story when it seems like y'all are inhibiting each other? Y'all not like y'all helping each other to grow. It seems like y'all in this snapshot, it seems like y'all are inhibiting each other. Y'all throwing like major emotional and, like you said, secretive verbal darts at each other. And like y'all may not be physically fighting it out, but y'all are verbally fighting it out like y'all in a heavyweight match. Y'all going for blood. Like when John David, when Malcolm's character, John David character, Malcolm said what he said when she's sitting in that tub, she was crushed. Yeah. Was crushed. And then when she read him his riot act to say, you know, you're from upper class, your mom is your dad was a lawyer, a doctor, something like that, or engineer, something like that. No, you don't know no struggle. You ain't never been no struggle. You self-absorbed. You upper middle class. Like, this is all you got. If I wasn't in your life, you ain't got no other movies. Yeah, you ain't got no other movies. Yeah, it's like you wrote that off mine. Blah, blah, blah. She was going in, and you can tell like he was looking like, man, like I feel like crap right now. I really feel low right now because she's reading me. She's reading me, and he's like, and he was like, F this, and he bumps out, the room, and it's just like this whole thing with like, again, with this space and them moving throughout the space, and this ebb and flow of like just getting at each other, man, and just tearing each other down. And it's just, damn, like, like what, because remember, this is one night, so this ain't the first time. This is the first time, Right. You can tell it's not normal behavior, but this isn't the first time. Okay. All right. So then with that scene, I believe when she talked about, and she brought up, why didn't you cast me? Right. There's one pivotal scene for me. And I think Kyle kind of felt it too. He steps outside to get a smoke. Yeah. And you can see the way the camera angle is, you can see him on one side of the house outside. Yes. on the hill with the smoke, and you can see her walking through the bedroom, stepping outside from the patio door with her cigarette smoking.
Right.
And to the camera, I gotta say that scene was nice with the camera.
It's a cinematic. It's a cinematic film.
It's very cinematic. But the very next scene, he's laying on the floor, chilling. Chilling. She comes out through the kitchen with a butcher knife.
Yeah.
Sits in front of him and lets him have it.
Yeah.
Talking about she stopped taking the pills to help her stay calm. She don't want to get better. She fucked his friends.
Yeah.
He was on the odds with.
Yeah.
And she don't care. She's waving that life like she's about to stab him. And the look in John Davis' face, crazy.
Yeah, like you wild.
Wait till you see that scene.
Yeah.
What did you think on that, Cal?
Well, first of all, great acting. Great by both of them just throughout the film. Zendaya did a thing on that one. Because I'm thinking like, is she gonna cut her wrist or she gonna cut him? Or she gonna cut him and cut her wrist? You know what I'm saying? Because again, I'm thinking from my perspective watching films like this, typically the woman does self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. Or she does self-sabotage. She does that and she, attacks her mate, which I wouldn't have been surprised if she would have attacked him with the knife. I wouldn't have been too shocked, again, coming from normal tropes in movies. Mm-hmm. And not even normal tropes, but the consistent tropes that have been used in movies. Mm-hmm. But I do like the fact that Zendaya's character was interesting and unique because even though she got verbally abused, and even though she felt like she had to stick up for herself, and then she had been through a very trying past with drug abuse, she seemed more vulnerable than John David and Malcolm in the entire film, and she was sober. Mm-hmm. David, he drank some. He ate. He drank some liquor. Sipped on some liquor. She smoked, but she was for the most part sober. She didn't, from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
She was very aware. And then when she pulled that, and that's great acting. I was like, the whole film, that's the first time I laughed in the whole joint. The whole film, that's the first time I laughed. I was like, wow. He was like, you should have did that shit. You should have did that in rehearsal. I was like, whoa, man. I was like, one, these are two good actors, and two, I'm like, yo, this is a cool scene to throw that in there to see, like, see, you should have had me. Mm-hmm. Thought you knew better. Thought you knew me, actually. Thought you knew me. Yeah, but I surprised you.
She ends it with C. Like, cause she's
right.
With it, right? But she's like, yo, y'all gotta see it, y'all. She's like, yo, you would think and then all of a sudden she switched to say, see, I'm fine. You should have cast me, but I wasn't good. Like you said, you thought you knew me.
Right. Thought you knew.
Gotta admit.
Yo, that was a great twist right there. I was like, oh, gotcha. Got me. I was like, gotcha, yeah.
All right, so with that said, we're going to round it out right now. And this is and then Cal, please interject after this anything else. One thing really stood out to me. And what stood out to me was very key points that she brought up and very key points that happens in relationships. And it happens from both sides, men and women, right? Where we become complacent with the other person. And Cal brought up a very good point that I didn't, in the context that it was, give and receive as opposed to the term give and take.
Yeah.
And how they say in relationships, there's always a giver, there's always a taker, right? Not necessarily the term there's always a giver and always a receiver. And what scene stood out, a part of the many other scenes, when you see the movie, you'll see, is that she very poignantly, like you said, he gave his diatribe, I think.
Yeah, in the early part of the first part of the film, he's talking about the film industry being black, being a black filmmaker, artist, getting the credit due compared to the white boys, that permeate Hollywood and get the chances and get a chance to do multiple films where you only get a chance to maybe just do one, and it better be good, have the space to be even mediocre, One of my homegirls talked about that too. She's an editor. She's like, yeah, unfortunately, it seems like, no, it doesn't seem like it is. And it's slowly changing that we only have a chance to be dominant and like knock it out the park. It got to be a blockbuster. If it's not a blockbuster, it's rare that will get a second chance. It's becoming more prominent now because the technology is helping democratize filmmaking a lot. But as far as getting a chance on the big screen with a big budget, you know, over $1 million, you know, which is chump change, you know, in Hollywood terms, you know, that's becoming more so, but it's still not the norm.
Mm-hmm. So that was his diatribe in
Yeah.
the first part of the movie. But her diatribe at the end was just as impactful.
Superb. Yeah.
And it's something that I think couples, especially couples, or if you're about, you want to get in a relationship or what have you, do your research before you get in a relationship. I think this is very important that it should be a part of relationship class 101. There should be some training and some classes on relationships, like we talked about in previous conversations.
I agree.
One of the many things, which I would say, to me, this is a big part, was where her diatribe include, you forgot, and you see it right from the beginning of the movie.
Right. And they're in the bedroom, right? This is what in the bedroom, right?
Yes.
Where she's sitting on the bed and she's talking to him. Yeah.
Yep. Where she was upset because he didn't thank her, right? So he didn't thank her when he received his award. But when she breaks it down even more in her diatribe, it really makes an impact, because in that statement where she felt taken advantage of, relationships give and receive, where felt like she was the one doing all the giving, and he was the one doing all the receiving. Still in that state of mind and in that moment, she made him his favorite meal, mac and cheese. That's just in that scene, that snapshot that we saw. Right. But the backstory is the fact that throughout the whole journey of his path towards that night where he was acknowledged and recognized for the work that he did, she played a pivotal role in that. And he didn't, you know what I'm saying?
And he didn't give her credit.
And
he didn't give her any credit. He gave everybody credit. The main actress who played supposedly her part, he didn't give her any credit on stage.
And here, when we think about it now, I'm thinking about, we're talking about now, it's real deep, because it wasn't the fact that, you know, he just, he was able to, a big part of his film was included her life, right? The struggle she went through in her life. Right. But it was the fact that after, post, you know, or while she was going through, she was the one that was making sure that, you know, he was her sounding board. She was his sounding board. She made sure she took care of the errands, the little things that it would affect his efficiency and effectiveness in the film. Shopping, clothes, you know, getting all the little things for him. These little things that the details, and they say a lot, the devil's in the details, and they say a lot of the things in the details that built these little steps. She covered all those little steps for him, so that way he could focus on the big picture. Right. Had she not been there, I say it's guaranteed. I firmly stand on this. Had she not been there taking care of those little details, he wouldn't have had the success that he had. I will firmly stand on that, right? Yeah. And that's the things that I have to admit, as a man, speaking for a man, that he overlooked. And it capsulized itself that night when he received the award and didn't thank her. It wasn't the fact that he didn't thank her for being a part of the inspiration, but didn't thank her for being there with him as he built up that momentum, being able to produce that movie in the first place, right? To receive the success that it received. She played a very integral part in that. And that was the biggest part that was missed in the whole thing. And in her diatribe, y'all got to see. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. She's an awesome young actor, Zendaya.
She breaks it down. I mean, it's a whole laundry list of stuff that she broke down that she did for him and he couldn't deny it.
He couldn't. No, you're right. He couldn't, because he was trying to lean into the fact that, you know, prior to meeting her, he was doing like stuff that he had done for free and for low pay and hours of work and in the writers' rooms or writing scripts and not getting turned down and having to go to certain networking. Like, he was going into all like the past. He said, well, look, okay, but this is right now. And the film that you just did, I helped to make you successful because I was taking care of other stuff while you was doing that, you know, like, whether you want to realize it or not, like, I played a part in that, you know, and I want to play a bigger part in that but it seemed like you weren't open to that, or you didn't feel like I was ready or skilled enough to do that. So it's like, yeah, it's like these things, like you said, taken advantage of, and him overlooking things, her overlooking some things too, but for the most part, like Malcolm's character, the Malcolm character, being just really self-absorbed, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though he did help her through a lot of trying times, but like she was saying, like, you seem so self-absorbed, and she seemed traumatized. She was traumatized, and she was still getting through that trauma, which is no fault to her. I'm sure it wasn't her total fault, but they were both kind of fighting their past. It seemed they were both kind of struggling against their past experiences to, like you said, to be able to come together and really be supportive of each other, the way they thought, but it seemed like, again, that support and that love gave them a right to kind of gave them the right to verbally abuse each other, that was a toxic thing in the film. It's like, well, damn, if y'all have been together this long, why are you going there? Why are you going there? Why y'all intentionally trying to hurt each other?
And that's a very good point. And one of the things that I would say, and there's a couple of things with that, but to that point, real quick, I want to address. That's one of the, how can I put this? That, like in the Super Bowl or in sports, right?
Yeah.
You have to play all these games to get to the big game. And the big game is the two best, right? So in NFL, AFC against the NFC. Baseball, AFL against the NHL, whatever. You know what I'm talking about? So in relationships, it's similar to that, right? And one of it is every relationship gets to that point. Powerful, man. Gets to that point where your point was, if you've been together for so long, why are you even talking to each other like that? Because what happens when you have two different lives coming together, these things that happen in lives pull you in that direction, which ultimately brings you to that point of conflict. And when, like, to your point, if you've worked with yourself and you evaluated yourself, it's those individuals in a relationship who have done that to the best of their ability and somewhat effectively that can cross that hurdle together without it being the end of a relationship. So every relationship, I think, to a large extent, has to cross that road that you see in there. You understand what I'm saying? And then the other thing I'm going to bring up real quick, and then you follow with that. I pose to you and family, you all who are watching, that they both contributed equally to the success of their lives. That those little things that she was mentioning in there was just as impactful, just as important to the things that he contributed to her life. I don't see it as, okay, just, all right, if you cook my meal, yeah, it may be something little that I could have done, but I can tell you, brother, being a bachelor for these years or what have you, it's a lot of work mentally, man, when you got to do your own laundry, when you got to cook your own food. God forbid you get sick. You ain't got nobody. You got to get up when you're not feeling well. You got to get up and make your own soup. You got to get up and go to CVS or Rite Aid and get the medication that you need. It's only you, homie, that you got to do that. When you're not feeling well and you probably can't even get up. So those little things that may seem minute when you're healthy or in normal circumstances, God forbid you're not able to take care of yourself. That's when that person who's been doing all those little things shine. That's when that person's doing all those, that's when their role is important. And then I'll close it out with this, my part anyway, with this, when it says, man works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. When a woman, I mean, all day she's working. She's taking care of the kids. She's taking out, she's taking care of you or whatever. I work 9 to 5. When I come home, I get to relax. Her work is still going on from the morning to the evening. So I think that's why I say him being a provider, as a man being a provider, making life easier, what have you, in addition to her being a supporter, that's where that mesh come in. And they're both equally valuable and they both equally contribute. No one is more than the other.
No, you make, man, brother, you dropping some gems. Yeah, I mean, apparently they're serving each other in some way because they're still together. You know, whether it be in toxicity and or productivity. And yeah, in relationships, these are two individuals coming together to form a union. And one thing I'm learning right now from some of the elders I'm talking to are that if you don't plan to grow together, you will definitely grow apart. Because you're going to grow. A relationship has to grow. If it doesn't grow, it's going to stagnate or regress. So it's not the fact that you're not going to grow, but are you going to grow together or are you going to grow apart? And that's intentional. You have to make intention to grow together, because if not, you will grow apart. They've seen it many times, and they've seen couples who have grown apart come back together, and find their purpose together. And then those who didn't, they have to, split ways. But that is some of the things, like you said, relationship. We are not schooled on relationships. How is it that the number one thing that we talk about the most, besides money, that we do not take some type of course or class or get some type of, not a strategy, but some type of structure in reference of cultivating positive, progressive, nurturing relationships? How is that, man? Like, I'm asking, and family, I'm asking this question not just to you, but for myself too. When you think about it, we'll go somewhere, we'll go to another city, move to another city for a job. We'll go across the country for that boys trip or that girls trip. But if it comes to a mate, I ain't doing that. I'm doing all that. What? Wow. Why would I do that? Which is very interesting to me. When I've been thinking during COVID. Yes, I'm definitely doing some research. And it's like, how is it that we're willing to do all this stuff for money or a job when one of the most important decisions you're gonna make in life is who's your mate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it seems like we talk about it, but in reference of how to do it properly, it escapes us. Mm-hmm. And like you're saying, Kayode, we're not meant to be alone. The fact that, you're a bachelor, I'm in my situation. We're just not meant to be alone, fam. That's not how we weren't born into this world alone. Mm-hmm. And while we're here, we're meant to be together. That's why it's men and women. Now, of course, people talk about the different genders now and things like that, but that's another story. What I'm talking about is man and woman, right? Not male, female. I'm not talking about animals here. I'm talking about men and women, man and a woman, right? So we're not meant to be alone, right? That's why everything is all topsy-turvy. Mm-hmm. Men seem to be volatile, verbally volatile and physically volatile against women, and then women are reacting to the volatility and being verbally abusive and also physically abusive as well. So it's this negative merry-go-round of blame game, and I'm better than you, and that's not the point. That's not the point. It's like, look, what's the common purpose? What is love? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? What people have to define it. Like, what is love to you? Like, and really, do you love yourself? That's the first thing. When people come looking for love, and they looking outside of themselves, you already missing the point. Mm-hmm. You need to be looking for love in yourself first, and then you can identify it when you see it. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for love outside yourself first, you're missing the point. You need to go and do that inner work. And again, in reference during the pandemic, like you said, people have been being alone, not being in a productive relationship. And I mean, not a relationship, I'm talking about a relationship with yourself. Like, and again, we all struggle with this because we live in this type of society where we can't, it seems like some of us cannot be by ourselves. Like, literally sit by yourself for 10 minutes. Like, for real. Like, can you just sit by yourself for 10 minutes? No TV, no radio, just sit by yourself for 10 minutes. It's hard for some people, man. I mean, it was hard for me. I'm in that mode. I've been in that mode for the past year and some change because of my training that I'm into. And I'll share that with you, family, on another post. But yeah, man, most people can't even sit with themselves for 10 minutes. Shit, 5 minutes. That's a problem. That's a problem that we have. So when I look at Malcolm and Marie, it's like, do these people even like each other? Like, do they even really truly like each other? Not that they be each other because people like, I put in, people say, man, I put in so much time, I'm not leaving that,
Obligation.
I remember one of the women I used to deal with, man, years ago, says something like that, like, not in reference of me, but just in general, like, women put in so much work, like, why would someone break up somebody, they already put in like, a couple of years of work or whatever. And I'm just like, and I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, you putting in work, but is it the work that needs to be done in order for y'all to cultivate that relationship? You know what I'm saying? Like that union. it's not about time, it's about quality. And then time builds on the quality. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are we doing here? What perspective are we coming from?
So with that said, I'm gonna pose a question to you.
Yeah.
And for a family, y'all who watch Malcolm and Marie, let us know in the comments, you know,
Definitely.
shout out to us. That ending scene, brother, that you brought to my attention, which was powerful, when the next day,
right? So they're not talking to each other, right? They go into bed, they're not really talking. What do you say? Like, I'm sorry.
No, he says, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. After her diatribe, he's like, you're right, my bad. I'm sorry. Thank you. No, he said thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, he said thank you. Yeah,
he said,
thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I love you.
Right.
So,
and she didn't necessarily say it back either. I remember hearing her say it back.
No, I think she said
she did.
Yeah, she said you're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Before she turned out the light and went to sleep. I think. So the next day happens. He wakes up. She's not in bed beside him. He walks throughout the house. He doesn't see her. Right? Dad, that's a spoiler. Hey, you're gonna see it anyway.
Well, no, it's a spoiler. I mean, we already told him it's a spoiler. Yeah, it's at the end now.
No. Just not give too much. He finds him. I'll leave it at that. So he finds her, right? And in the position that, you know, they are in at the end of the movie. My question that I posed to you, Kyle, and family who are watching, what's the will they last? Is the question I'm asking. Will they last? Is that the beginning of the end, or is that the beginning of the next beginning? Is the question I want to ask.
That's a good question, man. Yeah, you know what? I mean, a part of me is like, nah. Nah. I don't. I mean, again, how long can you? Again, if that's close to a regular day for them, they're not gonna last. And if they do last, they're gonna be so damaged emotionally that they're going to take that into other relationships. It's like a virus. They're gonna, like, you know, people talking about this COVID virus. That's a virus right there. That toxicity. They're gonna take that into another relationship and infect somebody else.
Okay.
You know, they're gonna affect somebody else. So, you know, if that's what makes them tick, and they in love and misery together, I feel for them. I would hope they want better. But if that works for y'all in misery, if y'all cool with being like that with each other, then fine. But I would like to hope it to work. And I'm glad that he left the ending like that, open-ended like that, because you don't know. But I hope they will, you know, but you know, that's one of those questions.
My take on it is I'm a decide one side or another, and you know, I'm just a hopeless romantic anyway. I think they are going to make it, and this
hopeless
is why.
Romantic.
Yeah, hopeless romantic.
You're hopeless, brother. You're not hopeful. You're not hopeful.
Hopeful.
See. These are the terms, fam. These are the terms me and Kayode have been talking about recently. These are the terms that people use that we don't. If you think about, like, hold on, hopeless. I'm hopeless. What? You hopeless? Huh? You mean you hopeful?
Hopeful,
right? Yeah, it's not you. I'm just saying, like, these are like terms where you like fall in love. Like, you shouldn't be falling anywhere. You should be learning and growing in love. Don't fall in love. That's a very loosey-goosey, you know, you don't have any control over yourself.
That's not thank you, brother.
Yeah. Grow in love, learn in love.
All right. So hopeful romantic. Me being a hopeful romantic, I think, and I could be wrong. I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna bet on that. That they are going to make it. And the reason why is because this is the first time that he received this acknowledgement. From the context of the movie, he hasn't done successful film before. From the context of the movie, he's the first, you know, this is his first experience of success.
Of success and fame.
This is all new to him. And because of that, I believe the exchange of words had a different weight to it. That it revealed some things about themselves and about each other that they never talked about before. And it exposed their vulnerability. And I think that in and of itself is a major part of the glue that will keep them together. That's why I think that they will make it. I think this argument, it was a snapshot in their life that was eye-opening, that will contribute to the long-lastingness of their relationship. That's my answer to the question that I just posed to you, Kyle.
Okay. So that's a good analysis, bro. I mean, again, it's only a snapshot. It's only one night.
Right.
So it's only one night. So
but hold on. That's not to say that going forward, they won't see counseling, couples therapy,
right.
What they learn. So, that's what I'm saying in regards to the relationship continuing on with them looking for constructive, healthy strategies to deal with those issues that they have. So that way they don't continue having those arguments going forward.
Right. Or they could become self-absorbed and self-destruct. Because again, right. I mean, I hope not. I hope not. But, again, unless there's something around them that's going to promote that behavior, that's what it's going to be. It's like, I mean, again, I'm being hopeful for sure, but I'm also looking at it like if this was a real deal relationship, like, because relationships like this do occur more than people know, more than people recognize. Some of us come out of those relationships, some of us are coming into those relationships, some of us are in those relationships right now. And it's unfortunate, that some of us have to go through that. And not even have to go through it, that we're going through it, because we, you don't know till sometimes, myself, but yeah, but it's interesting too, Kayode, like this whole thing of like, again, with Malcolm and Marie, Sam Levinson, the guy who wrote it, again, is based off of his experience. Now he's a white guy, he's a Caucasian. So some like I told you before, some of the script I felt was the way it was written and the way it was structured seemed like it did not come from someone who was African-American or from African-American experience. Just the way the dialogue was structured and the way they did certain things. I felt that this seemed like this comes from someone who is a white writer, right? In reference of Black characters. Again, they chose the best people for the roles. I felt the dialogue in certain spots were more towards dialogue written by somebody of European descent, Caucasian, right? And I could tell where maybe John David and Zendaya kind of added their own kind of, I like to say, stank on it, added their own little flavor to it. Like I tried John David in the beginning, Zendaya with the way that she was able to trick Malcolm into believing that she was going to cut herself. Just the way, again, that she was getting at him as far as like, no, how dare you cursing me while you eating mac and cheese that I made for you? Like, who are you? So checking him in that sense. And yeah, man, so it's not a film that I want to watch over and over again. I'll be real with you. I'm cool on that, but it opens up for conversation, which is what good film does,
Absolutely.
I want a good film to be like, oh, that was great. Oh man, I hated that film. I want that kind of in between.
Those stark differences.
Yeah.
So let's leave the family with some one tangible action step. As we do, is we're starting to make sure that we provide our family with some of the experience that we have that may benefit them. You want to start with that, Kyle, or you want me to start with my one tangible?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, family. In reference of a film like this, definitely watch more good films. Check out John David because he's an amazing actor. Zendaya too. I would say check out there's this film by Ava DuVernay's character. It had Nate Parker in it, and it had this other sister who's actor, but basically Nate Parker is a police officer and he's doing security for this woman who's an R&B singer. And he's basically filling a role as a security officer, but then they end up becoming in love. And it's about him like really sticking up for her, protecting her well-being, but not just physically, but like really connecting with her emotionally and feeling like you don't have to be this super star in order to be attractive or to matter. Like I see you for who you really are, and it's beautiful. And it's story. It's man, I just cannot remember the name right now. But that's a film that you should definitely check out opposed to this film. And really look for positive examples in relationships. A lot of people like getting relationship advice from people who know, excuse my language, don't know shit about relationships. And what they do know about relationships is not what we need to know in order to have a positive, long-lasting, progressive, fulfilling, enchanting relationship with someone else. Make sure that you get around people who have actually good relationships with themselves and with their partner, with their mate, and take those to task and ask those questions and really find out, like, you know, what that person's about, and live your life to the best. You know, they live it to the fullest.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. I'd wrap that up in saying, consider the source. That's something that I followed all my life. You know, I'm not going to go to somebody who's never been in a successful marriage, you know, for 20 years and ask them for advice on how to have a successful marriage. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to go to a auto mechanic and ask them how to do brain surgery. It just doesn't make sense. I got to consider the source.
Right.
So to your point, exactly. I would say in any relationship that you're in, don't forget the pillars. I call them the pillars. One of the pillars is communication, right? Communication, not combative communication, but just
open and honest, and consistent.
And consistent communication. The more you reveal of yourself in your vulnerability, and you receive, you know, if that person rejects that, then you know that person wasn't for you in the first place. You cut your losses and move on. That allows you to be who you are and to live your life to its fullest with someone who, here's the big one, accepts you for who you are. And in relationships, the best relationship you could ever have is with someone who accepts you for who you are, like a friend. So in any relationship, that's where it starts. Yeah, the attraction is there, and that's good and stuff like that. But somewhere along the line, you got to get that communication on track. And it's got to be with somebody whom you can share your any and everything with, your insecurities, your ups, your downs, your highs, your lows.
They're going to see it anyway. They're going to see it anyway. They're going to see, if you all are committed together, they're going to see, you know, you're going to see their faults and they're going to see yours. And you're going to be exposed. As they said one thing relationships will do, if it's a real relationship, it will expose you. You know, so they will peep game or peep who you are and be like, oh, I see you do this, I see you do that.
So in that term, communication, that's one of the key pillars that I leave with you as far as an action step to take from this move, you know, just in relationships in general. But I hope you enjoyed this review for Malcolm and Marie. And I'm gonna leave it to Kyle, you know, close us out or whatever, however you want to do it, Kyle. Thanks for watching, y'all. Appreciate y'all. And let us know if you want to see more reviews on hot topics such as this. You know, I'm sure you'll get some insight on what we share. Kyle?
Indeed, family. Thanks for hanging with us. Again, this has been a nice film review. Malcolm and Marie, we're probably going to do more in the future.
Absolutely.
Stay positive, stay together, be well, right? And we will see you next time for another Grand Rise Collective moment. All right. So, peace.
Peace.